चैंटिंग
मंगल
पूरा हिंदी की जा
छोटा ही तो है
हिंदी छूना
इसका हिंदी शायद है
कुछ बात आना है कौन सा पेज
36 पेज पे यहाँ से शुरू करना इसलिए क्योंकि हम नहीं पढ़ रहे तो यहाँ से ही करना भगवान मूर्खों की संगत न करना यहाँ से
ये है मंगल
छोड़ देना
36 पेज और वो है वो है 114 कौन सा पढ़ना है मंगल सूत्र ये पढ़ना है ना
125
हाँ 125 और ये है 36
देख लेंगे
Connected to 1 plus 3T. Connected to 1 plus 3T. One plus 3T, disconnected, ready to pair. Connected to 1 plus 3T.
अगर ये चल तो ये चल करना सुन में तो बस लाइव चैटिंग ची आसान बेहतरी आसान शर्ट सुबह सुबह
थोड़ी इस तरफ कर लो
Evening chanting, page 14, Hindi book. Yo so bhagava arhan samma sambuddho swakhato yena bhagavata dhammo supatipanno स भगवतो सावक संगो तमयं भगवन्त सधम्मं ससंगम् इमे सकारे हि यथार्हन् आरोपिते हि अभिपूजयाम साधुनो भन्ते भगवा शुचिर परिनिभूतोऽपि पश्चिमा जनता नुकम्पमानसा इमे सकारे दुगतपणाकारभूते पटिगणातु अम्हाकं दीर्घरथं हिताय सुखाय अरहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो भगवा बुद्धं भगवन्तम् अभिवादेमि स्वाखातो भगवता धम्मो धम्मं नमस्सामि सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो संघं नमामि हन्तमयं बुद्धस्य भगवतो पुब्बभाग नमकारं करोमसि नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स हन्तमयं बुद्धानुसतिनयं करोमसि तं खोपन भगवन्तम् एवं कल्याणो कीर्तिसद्दो अभुगतो इति पिसो भगवा अरहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो विद्याचरण संपन्नो सुगतो लोकविदु अनुत्तरो पुरुषधम्म सारथि सत्तादेव मनुष्यान् बुद्धो भगवाति हन्तमयं बुद्धाभिगीतिं करोमसि बुद्धवारहन्त वरतादिगुण वियुतो शुद्धाभिज्ञानकरुण समागततो बोधिसियो सुजनता कमलं वसुरो वन्दामं तमरणं शिरसा जिनेन्दम् बुद्धो यो सब्बपाणिनं शरणं क्षेममुत्तमं पठमानुसतिष्ठानं वन्दामि तं शिरेणहं बुद्धस्मि दासो बुद्धो मे सामिकीश्वरो बुद्धस्सहं नियादेव शरीरं जीवितं चिदं वन्दन्त्यहं चरिष्यामि बुद्धस्यैव सुबोधितं नत्ति मे शरणम् अन्यः बुद्धो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सज्जवज्जे वड्ढेयं सतु शासने बुद्धं निवन्दमानाय यं पुण्यं प्रसुतम् इद सभ्येऽन्तरायामि आयेषुं तस्य तेजसा काये वाचा बुद्धिकुकम्मं पक्तं न्यायं बुद्धो पटिगणातु अच्चयन्तु कालान्तरेण वासवचो बुद्धि हन्तमयं धम्मानुसतिनयं करोमसि स्वाखातु भगवता धम्मो संदिट्ठिको अकालिको एहि पस्सिको ओपनयिको पश्चात्तं वेदितव्यो विन्योहीति हन्दमयं धम्माभिगीतिं करोमसि स्वाखातदादिगुणयोग सेन सेयो यो मग्गपाकपर्यतिविमोखभेदो धम्मो कुलूकपतना तदधारिधारी वन्दामहं तमरं वरधम्ममीतं धम्मो यो सर्वपाणिनं शरणं घेममुत्तमं द्वितीयानुसतिष्ठानं वन्दामि तं शिरेणम् धम्मस्मि दासीव धम्मो मे सामिकिस्सरो धम्मस्सहं नियादेमि शरीरं जीवितं चिदं वन्दन्तीहं चरिस्सा धम्मस्येव सुधम्मतं नत्थि मे शरणम् अन्यं धम्मो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सज्जवज्जेन वड्ढेयं सत्तु शासने धम्मं मे वन्दमानाय यं पुण्यं पशुतं इद सब्बेऽपि अन्तरायामि माहेशुं तस्य तेजसा हन्दमयं संघानुसतिनयं करोमसि सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो उजुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो न्यायपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो सामीचिपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो यदिदं चत्तारि पुरुष युगानि अष्ट पुरुष पुद्गला एष भगवतो सावक संघो आहुनेयो बाहुनेयो दक्षिणेयो अंजलिकरणीयो अनुत्तरं पुण्यखेतं लोकसाति तमहं धम्मं इसमें नहीं है। अच्छा हन्दमयं संगावितुतिं करोमसि सधम्मजो सुपटिपत्तिगुणादियुतो यो अट्टविधो अरियपुङ्गलसङ्गसेठो शीलादिधम्मपवरा सयकाय चेत्तो वन्दाम्यहं तमरियानगणं सुशुद्धं संघो यो सबपानिनं शरणं खेममुत्तमं ततीयानुसतिष्ठानं वन्दामि तं शिरेणम् संघस्सस्मि दासी वा संघो मे सामिकिस्सरो संघस्सहं नियातेमि शरीरं जीवितं चिदं वन्दन्तीहं चरिष्यामि संघस्सोपटिपन्नतं नत्थि मे शरणम् अन्यं संघो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सच्चवत् वड्ढेयं सत्तु शासने संघं मे वन्दमानाय यं पुण्यं पशुतम् इद
सब्बेऽपि यन्ति
मे माहेषुं तस्य तेजसा
कालांतरे संवरित
සේවනාච බාලානං පණ්ඩිතානංච සේවනා පූජාච පූජනීයානං ඒතං මංගල මුත්තමං පතිරූපදේශ වාසෝච පුබ්බේච කත පුඤ්ඤතා අත්ථ සම්මා පනිධිච ඒතං මංගල මුත්තමං බාහු සච්ඡංච සිප්පංච විනයෝච සුසික්ඛිතෝ සුභාසිතාච යාවාචා ඒතං මංගල මුත්තමං මාතාපිතෝ පට්ඨානං පුත්තදාරස්ස සංඝෝ අනාකුලාච කම්මන්තා ඒතං මංගල මුත්තමං දානංච ධම්මචරියාච ඥාතකානංච සංඝෝ අනවජ්ජානි කම්මානි ඒතං මංගල මුත්තමං ආරති විරති පාපා මජ්ජපානාච සංයමෝ අප්පමාදෝච ධම්මේසු ඒතං මංගල මුත්තමං ගාරවෝච නිවාතෝච සන්තුට්ඨීච කතං යුතා කාලේන ධම්ම සවනං ඒතං මංගල මුත්තමං khanthic sovacassa samenanංච dassang කාලේන ධම්ම සාකච්ඡා ඒතං මංගල මුත්තමං තපෝච බ්‍රහ්මචරියංච අරිය සච්ඡාන දස්සනං නිබ්බාන සච්චි කිරියාච ඒතං මංගල මුත්තමං පුට්ඨස්ස ලෝක ධම්මේහි චිත්තං යස්ස න කම්පති අසෝකං විරජං khemං ඒතං මංගල මුත්තමං ඒතාදිසානි කତ୍වාන සබ්බත්ථ මපරාජිතා සබ්බත් සුත්තිං ගච්ඡන්ති තං තේසං මංගල මුත්තමන්ති ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන සුත්තිතේ හෝතු සබ්බදා ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන සබ්බ රෝගෝ විනස්සතු ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන හෝතු තේ ජය මංගලං
मंगल सूक्त हिंदी बुक 36 पेज
हिंदी ट्रांसलेशन कर रहे हैं
हिंदी ट्रांसलेशन मंगल सूत्र
नीचे से
नहीं ऊपर तो पढ़ लो लाइन आए हम उत्तम मंगल की गाथाओं का पाठ करें। मूर्खों की संगत न करना, ज्ञानियों की संगति करना, पूजनीय लोगों की पूजा करना, यह उत्तम मंगल है। उपयुक्त निवास, पूर्व जन्मों का संचित पुण्य, अपने को सम्यक रूप से समाहित करना, यह उत्तम मंगल है। अपार विद्वता, शिल्प कौशल, नियमों में सुशिक्षित, सुभाषित वाणी, यह उत्तम मंगल है। माता पिता की सेवा, स्त्री पुत्र का पालन, व्याकुलता रहित धर्म कर्म, यह उत्तम मंगल है। दान, धर्ममय आचरण, रिश्तेदारों की सहायता, अनवर्जित कर्म, यह उत्तम मंगल है। संयमित, पाप कार्यों से विरति, मद्यपान न करना, हर परिस्थिति में सजग रहना, यह उत्तम मंगल है। सम्मानियों को गौरव देना, विनीत, संतुष्ट तथा कृतज्ञ रहना, समय समय पर धर्म श्रवण, यह उत्तम मंगल है। सहनशीलता, आज्ञाकारिता, श्रमणों का दर्शन, समय समय पर धर्म चर्चा, यह उत्तम मंगल है। तप, ब्रह्मचर्य, आर्य सत्यों का दर्शन, निर्वाण का साक्षात्कार, यह उत्तम मंगल है। लोक धर्मों के स्पर्श से जिनका चित्त कंपित नहीं होता, शोक रहित, निर्मल, निर्भय रहता है, यह उत्तम मंगल है। इस तरह के कार्य करके जो सर्वत्र अपराजित हो, सर्वत्र कल्याण के भागी होते हैं, उनका यही उत्तम मंगल है।
Now here a discourse by Joseph Goldstein on basically on emptiness and compassion. But the title I have written is longest title.
There's a word in Pali and Sanskrit that has a lot of meaning for our practice. That word is bodhicitta. And literally, we could translate it as the heart, mind, citta of awakening, bodhi. On the relative level, bodhicitta refers to compassion, and particularly to the aspiration that we're not practicing for ourselves alone, but we can practice with the aspiration that our own awakening be for the benefit of all beings. And by cultivating this aspiration right from the beginning of our practice, it gives a lot of energy. As you're going through different difficulties, realizing that we're going through these not just for ourselves, but our own growing understanding will also benefit everyone else. And in one way or another, we find this compassionate aspiration expressed in many of the Buddhist traditions. Of course, it's central to the Dalai Lama's way of understanding his life and his practice. And he wrote something about himself which I find it's particularly endearing. So he said, speaking of my own experience, I sometimes wonder why a lot of people like me. When I think about it, I cannot find in myself any specially good quality, except for one small thing. That is the kind heart, which I try to explain to others, and which I do my best to develop myself. Of course, there are moments when I do get angry, but in the depth of my heart, I do not hold a grudge against anyone. I cannot pretend that I am really able to practice bodhicitta, but it does give me tremendous inspiration. Deep inside me, I realize how valuable and beneficial it is. That is all. So it is endearing. It's, the Dalai Lama, who manifests so much compassion, he wonders why a lot of people like him. Well, it's that kind heart, living with that aspiration to benefit all. And the same understanding is found in the Pali Canon. After the Buddha began teaching, and when the first 60 disciples had become arhants, he sent them forth with this exhortation. He said, "Go forth, O bhikkhus." These are monks who had become fully enlightened. Go forth for the good of the many, for the happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world, for the good benefit and happiness of people and devas. Let not two go by one way. Teach the Dharma, excellent in the beginning, excellent in the middle, excellent in the end. Proclaim the noble life, altogether perfect and pure. Work for the good of others, you who have done your duty. So again, it's in all the traditions, the sense that our practice can be motivated by this aspiration to benefit all others. So the relative level of bodhicitta is compassion. On the more ultimate level, it's said that bodhicitta refers to the empty nature of the mind itself. And as one teacher expressed it, when compassion and emptiness are both present, enlightenment is unavoidable. So these are the two aspects, in our practice that we need to cultivate and to realize. One of the great realizations, transforming realizations for me in my own practice, was at a certain point realizing that compassion and emptiness, or compassion and wisdom, are not polarities, but they are expressions of each other. And this is our challenge as people, to see how we can integrate the wisdom of emptiness into compassionate responsiveness. So there's one teaching by the Tibetan master Shabkar, who I think was an 18th century Dzogchen master, and beautiful teachings that have been passed down. There's one verse which he wrote which expresses the unification of relative and ultimate bodhicitta, of compassion and emptiness. He wrote, "The mind's nature is as vivid as a flawless piece of crystal, intrinsically empty, naturally radiant, and ceaselessly responsive." He was talking about the nature of mind, the nature of our minds. Vivid as a flawless piece of crystal, intrinsically empty, naturally radiant, ceaselessly responsive. So tonight I'd like to talk about these three aspects and how we can actually experience them for ourselves. So how do we understand the term intrinsically empty? In English, the term empty or emptiness is really not that all appealing. You know, sometimes we hear the word empty and we might think of it kind of as a blank nothingness or a gray vacuity. And it doesn't necessarily inspire us, or invite us. But in Pali, in Sanskrit, the word for emptiness is shunyata. And shunyata has many profound meanings in Buddhism. So it's a word with tremendous wealth and depth of meaning. So how can we understand shunyata, or emptiness? There are many, many ways to approach the experience of it. On the very simplest level, we can understand emptiness to mean lack of self-centeredness. Now, usually when we hear the word self-centered, we think of it as being a personality problem. You know, somebody is self-centered and maybe they should go see a therapist about it. But there's a deeper meaning to that term. It's when we create a felt sense of self to be at the very center of our lives, self-centered. You know, where our whole lives revolve around this center of I and me and mine. It becomes the reference point for everything that we think, everything that we feel, everything that we sense. It is the felt sense or the idea, the view, that there is someone behind experience to whom all experience is happening. That's the deepest meaning of self-centered. And this is our common experience. You know, we view things, my body, my thoughts, my feelings. I'm doing, I'm acting, I'm going. Just our normal way of being in the world all centers around this view of self. So in that way, to the extent that we do that, we are all self-centered. We're living in this gravitational field of the self-center. And just think about your normal experiences in life. You know, all the hopes and the fears and the worries and the plans. what are they revolving around? They're revolving around some sense of I, some sense of mine. Also in our meditation practice. I spoke about this last week. How often our meditation practice itself is fueled by a desire for becoming something. So it's a very strongly rooted, habitual conditioning. And it's just so interesting. We revolve around these desires for ever new experiences, even when we know that these experiences are continually changing. So it's something we know. It's not a hidden mystery. And it's amazing that we continue to do this throughout our lives, relying on some next experience to finally fulfill us. All the time knowing that it won't and that it can't. So isn't this strange? It really points to the power, the great, great power of delusion. Because it's something we know, and yet we keep acting on the belief, on the view, just the next thing. The next meditation experience, the next whatever. However, the Buddha offered us some hope out of all this through a sustained, wise attention, which is what you're all cultivating here. Through the growing strength and power of mindfulness, of concentration, of wisdom, we begin to pull away from this self-referential orbit. And we are gradually drawn into the gravitational field of the Dharma, the zero center of the Dharma, rather than the self-center of I and mine. So this was expressed very succinctly by the Sufi poet Rumi, when he wrote, "Live in the nowhere that you come from, even though you have an address here." And so we're all here, and we have an address, and that's the conventional world of self and I and other. So we live in that world, and it's not to deny that. But even though we have an address here, can we really live in the nowhere that we come from? Live in the realization of emptiness. This is the great challenge, to somehow integrate this conventional level of reality with a more ultimate understanding. Well, this is a little teaching from a Tibetan teacher, which I've read many times, but it's just gets right to the point. He said, "It's not that you're not real. We all think we're real, and that's not wrong. You are real, but you think you're really real. You exaggerate it." So that's it. We are real, we interact, we relate in this ordinary way, but on another level, we're not really real. And that's what our practice can discover and explore. So we can experience this emptiness of self, and we do experience it in many ways. We can get intimations of it in our ordinary lives. Sometimes people have experiences when they enter into just an effortless flow. And there's something called a flow state, right? And it might be in any kind of activity. It could be in sports, it could be in music, it could be in work, in nature, where due to some conditions we forget about ourselves and we're just in the flow of experience. things seem to be flowing on by themselves without us, and are really much better for that, right? The flow goes on a lot more easily. So it's to pay attention to that, because even in meditation, you might have experiences maybe sometimes when you're doing walking, and it just seems to be happening by itself. When they're sitting, where there's just a flow of effortless mindfulness and no one is doing anything. So we begin to get a sense, a feeling of this emptiness of self. We can become aware or reminded of emptiness of self. We can be reminded of it sometimes by some of our teachers, either by their words or even by their presence. And I had a very striking example of this, although this has happened with many of my really accomplished teachers and masters. But once when Deepa Ma was visiting, and she was this extraordinary woman, yogi, high levels of realization and concentration, and I think I've spoken about her before. She's really quite an amazing being, and just exuding metta and also emptiness. I remember once we were at the retreat center, and she was there for a retreat, and I saw her come in to the hall and bow before the Buddha. And just watching her do that, it was like wisdom bowing to wisdom, or love bowing to love, or emptiness bowing to emptiness. There was such a sense that there was no one there. There was no self doing that. And so sometimes with people like that, we can really get a feeling or intuit this experience of emptiness. Something I mentioned this morning, which can also lead us into this experience. I know that you, during the day, you practiced it all with this passive voice construction of just things being known, moment after moment. If you do practice that and get easeful with it, at first it may be, a little awkward trying to figure out, what is he talking about? But as you practice it, it's very simple. It's just experiences being known. You might repeat that to yourself, just to kind of get into that groove. Then after a while, it's just happening. And there's no one there doing anything. So then we begin to actualize this experience of emptiness. We begin to see that there is no thing, no entity that the words I or self refer to. We use those words conventionally and they're useful, not suggesting that we drop the words. But when we really look to see what it is that they refer to, we see that it's just a convenient designation. It's like using the word storm. Maybe there's a big summer storm, and rain and wind and lightning and thunder. Oh, there's a big storm going on. But is there a storm? Is there something called storm apart from the wind and the rain and the thunder and the lightning? No, there's no thing called storm. It's just a convenient designation for this coming together of different conditions. Looked at closely, the term self, which we can use, nothing wrong with using the word. But when we look closely, we see it's simply a convenient designation for the changing weather pattern of these mental, physical elements. We could just see all of our experience as changing weather systems. You know, and sometimes it's a bright, clear, sunny day, and sometimes it's a big summer storm, and sometimes the black flies are out and annoying us. And it's just changing weather conditions. As the practice develops, you know, and our refinement of the changes increases, we begin to see that the change is happening just incredibly rapidly. We begin to see that nothing lasts long enough to be called self. Even within one breath, you know, we might say, oh, I'm taking an in-breath. But if we're feeling that in-breath carefully and precisely, the in-breath is not one thing. It is a flow of many, many, many different sensations. And each one of those microscopic sensations is just arising and passing, arising and passing. And our whole life is like that. It's just that we're not usually seeing it on that level. And the point of practice is not necessarily to always be seeing it on that level. But we want to develop the wisdom or the understanding that underneath the conventional reality of our lives, something else is going on. Because it's on that level that we free ourselves from attachment to this view of I, this view of self. One of the early Western pioneers of people going to Asia to practice Vipassana was a woman named Jocelyn King. So I was in India in the 60s and 70s. She was probably there in the 50s, very early. So she had a great line. She said, "It's better to stand on the firm ground of emptiness than on the quicksand of somethingness." Right? Mostly we think that somethingness is the firm ground. You know, no, it's better to stand on the firm ground of emptiness, letting go of the notion of self, than the quicksand of somethingness. But how often do we get lost in the quicksand of our thoughts and emotions and feelings and reactions and judgments? You know, so much of our day, so much of our lives is sinking into that quicksand, forgetting the empty, selfless nature of it all. So this is the beauty of being here, you know, and having given yourself this great gift of practice in this fantastic place to practice. Well, all you have to do, your only job, is just to stay aware. And in that, the firm ground of emptiness reveals itself. Okay, another way of understanding and realizing emptiness, and this way is very obvious as soon as we start paying attention to it, but we often are not paying attention, is to seeing that things, the world, life, is not amenable to our will, which is another meaning of the Pali word anatta. Usually translated as selflessness, it also means ungovernable. We cannot, with any hope of success at all, say, may my body never change. May my body not age. May it never grow ill. May I only have pleasant mind states. It's so obvious that everything is arising due to causes and conditions, not because we want it or don't want it to be a certain way. If things were amenable to our will, let me always be healthy, let me always feel good, let me always be happy. But it doesn't work like that. And this is the meaning of anatta. This is another meaning of emptiness of self. It's ungovernable. And ungovernable means it's not subject to our will. It doesn't mean that there are not causes and conditions for things to arise. And so to live in harmony in the world, and actually to fulfill our aspirations, is to understand, well, what are the causes and conditions for the mind to be happy? You know, and this is the great gift of the Buddha's teaching. He figured all this out, which is quite astounding. You know, through his own awareness. It's like he mapped the mind, he mapped the heart. He said, these causes and conditions lead to suffering. These causes and conditions lead to worldly happiness. These causes and conditions lead to awakening, to enlightenment. And he didn't say, just believe this. He said, try it out, see for yourself. So this is the great gift of understanding this meaning of emptiness. Seeing the importance of understanding the causes and conditions necessary for fulfilling whatever aspirations we have. So this is an interesting way just to test your understanding of this. It's somewhat here, you know, while you're on retreat, but even more so when you leave here and around in the world. Just pay attention to those situations when things are not going the way you would like them to go. You know, maybe it's some condition of the body, maybe it's some difficulty in a relationship. Maybe it's being at the airport 2 hours early and then you see your flight is canceled. In those moments, when you're bumping up against the world, and the world is not doing what you would like it to do, reflect on that rather than just rebound into some irritation or aversion or judgment or reaction of some kind. Take those situations to notice that they are happening, whatever the circumstance is, whether interpersonally or impersonally, that whatever the situation is, it's arising out of different conditions, not because you want it or don't want it to be a certain way. So just that understanding, you know, there's a sense of ease, there's a sense of relief. Because the more we understand this particular meaning of emptiness, that things are not amenable to our will, but arise out of the appropriate conditions, we let go of the illusion of control. And we can see more clearly what actually are the conditions necessary to accomplish our aims. So we just see with much greater clarity and take much more effective action. Okay, we experience emptiness in terms of a flow. We get into a flow state. We experience emptiness sometimes in the presence of a great teacher. We experience meaning of emptiness when we realize things are not amenable to our will, that they're ungovernable in that sense. There's no self controlling the world. There's another meaning of emptiness which is emphasized in certain Buddhist traditions, and that is the empty, space-like nature of the mind. So this is from a teaching by Padmasambhava, who was the great Indian adept who brought Buddhism from India to Tibet. He said, "It is certain that the nature of mind is empty and without any foundation whatsoever. Your own mind is insubstantial like the empty sky. Look at your own mind to see whether this is so or not." So this teaching, and there are a lot of teachings like this, that are pointing us back to look at the nature of awareness itself. So one exercise which I've done and may have mentioned earlier, but I found very revealing, is just, whether in sitting or walking or moving about, in hearing a sound. Sound arises, the sound is being heard. So sometimes I'll ask the question in my mind, can I find what is knowing the sound? So it's just a way of turning the attention back towards the awareness itself. Can I find what is knowing the sound? And when I look, I see there's nothing to find. And as one teacher said, the not finding is the finding. That's what's to understand. That the mind in that way cannot be found. And so that's another meaning of emptiness. The empty nature of the mind. But it's really important here, and we need to take care not to create some idea of emptiness, not to create some concept about it, and then get attached to the concept. So somebody came to one teacher and was describing a very empty, spacious quality of mind. And they were having what most people, not you, but what most people would call a good sitting. Open, empty, spacious. And so she was reporting this to the teacher. And he could see that there was just some, you could say, attachment to that state or reification of that state. Oh, this is emptiness. And he said, and he's making a very interesting distinction here, that a better description than spaciousness for the experience of emptiness, rather than spaciousness, it's groundlessness. And I realized when I heard that, I thought, that really cuts through attachment to any state. Because yes, it's lovely when the mind is spacious. You know, we all may have had that experience, but that's just another state. It's a very pleasant state, but it's a state, it's a conditioned arising. Whereas the term groundlessness, at least for me, it just cuts through attachment to anything. It's like the ground falls away. And that gives a better flavor of what the experience of emptiness is. So in this practice, in the direct looking at the empty nature of the mind, it's not so much deconstructing the sense of self, you know, by seeing all the component elements of what we call self, but rather it's looking directly or seeing directly the empty nature of the mind. Okay, the mind is vivid like a flawless piece of crystal, intrinsically empty. But it's not just empty. Shabkar went on to say, intrinsically empty, naturally radiant. That's another aspect or quality of the mind. And radiant here means this innate capacity of the mind to know, the capacity of awareness. So as I mentioned, I think maybe this morning, the cognizing power of emptiness. That it's not just empty space, that the mind actually has the capacity to be aware. Buddhadasa, the great Thai master of the last century, he said, we should really call mind emptiness because of its space-like nature, but because of the awareness faculty, we call it mind. Okay? So this is important. The mind is not just empty space. It has this knowing, aware quality. So this union of emptiness and awareness, this is an important understanding. The nature of the mind is this union of emptiness and awareness. It was expressed in the first lines of a book I came across. The title of the book, I was just in a bookstore, and I came across this title, The Nothing That Is. So I didn't know what the book was about, but the title was so, The Nothing That Is, that sounds really Buddhist. It turns out that the book by Robert Kaplan is a history of the number 0. So Robert Kaplan was a mathematician at Harvard. And 0 was a late discovery and very powerful idea, concept. So these are the opening lines of this book. First 2 lines. Look at 0 and you see nothing. Look through it and you see the world. That's our practice. Look at the mind and you see nothing. There's nothing to find. Look through it and you see the world. That's as far as I got in the book. It soon got very technical. What's important in this realization is that this nature of mind, this union of emptiness and awareness, is not something we have to get. This is the nature of mind. It's something we need to recognize and come back to as we free ourselves from the hindrances, free ourselves from delusion. We let go of all our various and subtle attachments. So realizing this really can change the way we practice. Instead of practicing with an ambitious striving to get something, we're realizing the nature of the mind is already empty and already aware. But we don't always see that. Why? The Buddha said it very directly. He said, luminous bhikkhus is the mind. It is defiled by incoming defilements. Luminous is the mind. It is freed from incoming defilements or visiting defilements. The important point here is that the defilements which obscure the mind are not intrinsic to the mind. They're visitors. They come when the conditions are there. So if we learn how to recognize, you could say, the nature of awareness, the empty nature of awareness, it's already here. And sometimes in my practice, especially when I would find myself caught up in striving, in one way or another, it could be very obvious, sometimes really subtle, sometimes just kind of leaning into the next moment. Sometimes I would use the mantra, already here, or already aware. And just those couple of words would remind, settle back, it's already here. I simply need to be aware of what's arising, not to get something. And the whole system relaxes. Doing a little mental editing. So one image that describes this movement from delusion to awareness is the image of ice and water. You know, ice is hard, it's frozen, it's solid. Ice is the mind when we're caught up or identified with a thought, with a feeling, with an emotion, with our story. You know, and you can feel that sense of contraction when we are lost, when we're identified with the movies of our minds. Water is the free-flowing. Water is when the mind is free-flowing. It's not identified, it's not attached, it's not caught. It's just in the flow of phenomena arising and passing away. Empty phenomena rolling on. Now the big secret, ready? This is the big secret. Water is nothing other than melted ice. And so it's not that the free flow of water or the free flow of experience is some far off attainment. Oh, one day I'll be water, and just be freely flowing. No, water is nothing else than melted ice. So even with all these thoughts and emotions and stories, as soon as we see them for what they are, the ice melts, and we're back in the free flow of experience. And you've all had this experience many times. Pay attention the next time you're caught up in some story. Probably it'll happen sometime before you leave. Just the next time the mind is caught up, and then notice that moment when you come out from being lost, and you remember, oh, all of that whole big drama that I was caught up in and had so much strong feelings about, and emotions, it was nothing more than just some thoughts and feelings in the mind. It had been ice, and it melted, and right back in the flow. It's just so amazing, the power of unnoticed thoughts. When we're not aware that they are just a thought, we are lost in the movies of our minds. We are living in this mind-created world. And then we wake up from it. It's like coming out of a movie theater. We may have been totally involved in the story of the film, and then you step out of the theater and that sense of, it's like the mind enlarges. It's like, oh, there's the bigger reality. And you realize nothing that was in the movie theater was really happening. I find this whole thing amazing. I really do. It's like, it's very good to have a sense of humor about all this, because as I said earlier, Sokni Rinpoche's phrase, so much of our suffering is real, but not true. So it's not the suffering is there. When we are caught in the story, we are suffering. But the potential for freedom is always there. And it's not 20 years down the road. It's right in this moment of just seeing what's happening. It's like being in a prison cell where the door is always unlocked. At any moment we can step out. There's nothing keeping us there except our not seeing. So that's why it's so powerful what you're doing here, just to spend all day just to be practicing seeing. Getting lost and waking up, and getting lost and waking up. Over and over again, and seeing that process. It's tremendously liberating. Okay. intrinsically empty, naturally radiant, ceaselessly responsive. It's the nature of the mind. So what does ceaselessly responsive mean? In the open, empty awareness, there is a natural and spontaneous, compassionate response to the world and to people around us. It's like water flowing down a mountainside. The water will find the most direct way, which doesn't always mean straight down, but according to the contours of the land, the water will find the shortest way down the mountain. As we move out of the self-centered, the orbit of the self-center, into the gravitational field of the empty center, the gravitational field of the Dharma, of emptiness, we find that there is a spontaneous responsiveness to situations, and we begin to have a very active engagement in the world, responding to the suffering that's there, to the suffering of beings, our own and others, in a much more open and compassionate way. We begin to respond in whatever way seems appropriate and in whatever way is possible. So this can show itself and does show itself in many ways in our lives. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful part of our unfolding practice to see in ourselves and in others a growing, compassionate response to different situations. So there's one story of Aung San Suu Kyi, the Burmese leader, when she was under house arrest, which was for 17 years or something like that. She was having an interview with an Australian newspaper, and the journalist said, "Don't you want to bring the generals down?" And she replied, "No, I want to bring them up." I mean, here were people, who were doing terrible things in the country. And yet her response, her compassionate response to that situation, no, I don't want to bring them down, I want to bring them up, I want to elevate their understanding. Sometimes the responsiveness can manifest in very small ways. The emptier we are of self-reference. It may be small gestures of friendliness, or of kindness, or of generosity. We shouldn't overlook these very small moments in our lives. The Dalai Lama said, "I try to treat whoever I meet as an old friend. This gives me a genuine feeling of happiness. It is the practice of compassion." It's such a simple statement. I try to treat everyone I meet as an old friend. So then we think of our own responses to everyone we meet. And probably, at least at times, maybe not often, but at least at times, how many judgments come in, and projections, and likes and dislikes, even before we actually say anything to them. The habit of our mind. So can we create a new habit? Compassion can also manifest, as times of great courage or determination. You think of really some exceptional beings like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or Nelson Mandela in situations of huge suffering. I used to watch these films of Dr. King leading, marches, both in the North and the South, and often surrounded by people just filled with hatred. And he was holding the space of love. And it was amazing. It was amazing to see the potential, that possibility. And the fact of Mandela, when he came out of prison, became the first president post-apartheid. It is amazing. I had taught in South Africa. It is amazing that that country did not erupt in a violent civil war, given the oppression and cruelty that had happened there. But he held the space of reconciliation. So this is the potential of compassionate response in the midst, requiring a lot of courage and determination, in the midst of tremendous difficulty. There's a teacher in California. His name is Lou Richmond. And some years ago, he contracted a terrible disease. It was viral encephalitis, which I'm not even exactly sure what it is, but it was some brain virus. It was terrible. He was really on the verge of death. He was in a coma for 2 weeks. Brain damage, other disabilities. And he said it took him 3 to 4 years to recover from this illness, and many people don't. So he was writing about this. And he had been a Zen teacher, and still is. So this is what he wrote after his illness. Sometimes when I'm asked to describe the Buddha's teaching, I say this: everything is connected, nothing lasts, you are not alone. This is really just a restatement of the 3 marks of existence: impermanence, not self, impermanence, and suffering. I don't think I would have expressed the truth of suffering as you are not alone before my illnesses. So this is very interesting. This is how we describe the truth of dukkha. You are not alone. But now I find that talking about it that way gets at something important. The fact that we all suffer in one way or another and at different times means we are all in the same boat. And that's what allows us to feel compassion. So it's the universality of this truth, the universality of the truth of dukkha, of suffering, expressed as you are not alone. And when we remind ourselves of that, it really opens the heart to compassion for ourselves and for others. In understanding compassion and how it's the natural responsiveness of the heart, of the mind, it's important not to create a hierarchy of compassionate action. Oh, this action is really compassionate, and this is just moderately compassionate. The field of compassionate responsiveness is limitless. It's the field of suffering beings. And we each find our own way in it. We each find our own way in expressing this compassion. Sometimes it might be active engagement with the world. Sometimes it might mean sitting in a cave for 20 years, practicing to awaken with the aspiration for the benefit of all. And if you don't want to sit in a cave for 20 years, you could sit here for 20 years. That could be as compassionate an action as being on the front lines of social action. There's no hierarchy. And think of the Bodhisattva. How many lifetimes did he spend as a solitary renunciate? And you could just imagine his parents, relatives, people say, what is that guy doing? He's just selfish, sitting in a cave, by himself for all these years. And yet, after all those lifetimes of practice, flowering in the awakening of Buddhahood, we're here today because of the flowering of that compassion. So it's to be careful not to judge or discriminate, or it all has to do with the motivation and the aspiration in the heart. The mind's nature is vivid as a flawless piece of crystal, intrinsically empty, naturally radiant, the aware quality, ceaselessly responsive. The more we recognize the innate empty wakefulness of mind, the more the compassionate responsiveness comes forth. And the more we practice compassion free of self-reference, the more we recognize its empty nature. I'll just close with this wonderful teaching from Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, who was one of the really great Tibetan masters of the last century. He said, when you recognize the empty, selfless nature of phenomena, which is what we're all doing here, when you recognize the empty, selfless nature of phenomena, the energy to bring about the good of others dawns uncontrived and effortless. So this is the union, of relative and ultimate bodhicitta. Compassion is the activity of emptiness. And this is really the great work that we're all doing here. So let's sit for just a few moments.
Thank you for listening. To learn.
Just sit for a few minutes and then do the Brahmavihara practice. much restriction. इसको ऐसे करेंगे.
जोर पान कर
ब्रह्म विहारों का अभ्यास करेंगे. पहले करुणा ब्रह्म विहार कंपैशन जो हमने प्रवचन आज सुना, the more empty we are of self,
जोर
the more compassionate we become. और इस समय परिस्थितियां तो ऐसी हैं कि हर किसी प्राणी को दूसरों की इतनी अथाह पीड़ा देखते हुए करुणा तो जागती ही होगी. लाखों लोग दिन प्रतिदिन बढ़ते ही जा रहे हैं, बीमारी बढ़ती जा रही है, हमारे देश में भी बढ़ती जा रही है. कुछ लोगों की अज्ञानता के कारण भी इतनी तेज़ी से बीमारी बढ़ गई. तो उनके प्रति भी गुस्सा ना हो, अज्ञानता के प्रति करुणा ही जागे. और गुस्सा आए भी हमें तो अपने ऊपर करुणा ही रखें. जो लोग बीमार हो रहे हैं वो शीघ्र स्वस्थ हों, उनकी बीमारी का इलाज शीघ्र ढूंढा जा सके ताकि और अधिक तेज़ी से बीमारी न बढ़े. जितनी तेज़ी से पिछले कुछ दिनों में बीमारी बढ़ी है, भारत में, अमेरिका में, इटली में, जर्मनी में, सब जगह 2-2, 3-3 दिन के अंदर ही पेशेंट्स डबल हो रहे हैं. तो बहुत ही भयंकर स्थिति है. उसको देख के डर भी लगता है, करुणा भी जागती है. सभी लोगों के सभी कष्ट दूर हो, रोग से मुक्ति जल्दी मिले, शीघ्र से शीघ्र दवाई खोजी जा सके, जो भी बाधाएं आ रही हैं वो सब दूर हो, सभी निरोग हों, दीर्घायु हों. ऐसी शुभकामना हम सब मिलके करते हैं. सब्बीतियो विभजन्तु सुखो रोगो विनश्यतु माते भवतु अन्तरायो सुखी दीर्घायुको भवतु सुखी दीर्घायुको भवतु सुखी दीर्घायुको भवतु. लाखों लोग रोग से पीड़ित हैं और करोड़ों लोग भय और आशंकाओं से पीड़ित हैं. कठिनाइयों में जीने के कारण पीड़ित हैं, रेस्ट्रिक्शंस के कारण पीड़ित हैं. वे सब इस बदली हुई परिस्थिति को एक्सेप्ट कर सकें, मन को समता में रख सकें, धर्म के मार्ग पे प्रतिष्ठित हो. कठिनाइयों को सहन करने से शांति की पारमी बढ़ती है। और अगर कठिनाइयों से जूझ के गुस्सा करेंगे, बेचैनी बढ़ाएंगे तो अपना कष्ट और बढ़ेगा। सब लोग कठिनाइयों से ठीक से जूझ पाएं और उत्तरोत्तर परिस्थितियां बदलें, सुधरें, ताकि ये कठिनाइयां कम हों। ऐसी शुभेच्छा हम सब करते हैं। सभी के प्रति मैत्री का व्यवहार रखते हैं, सबके सुख की, दुखों से मुक्ति की शुभकामना करते हैं। इस विषम परिस्थिति में लाखों लोग जो रोग से ग्रस्त हैं, उनकी सेवा करने वाले भी लाखों लोग लगे हुए हैं। भारत में, सारे विश्व में मेडिकल स्टाफ, डॉक्टर, नर्स, सपोर्टिंग स्टाफ, और जो घरों में बंद हैं हम जैसे लोग, उनकी आवश्यकताओं की पूर्ति के लिए सैकड़ों लोग भारत में, हजारों लोग विश्व में लगे हुए हैं। आवश्यकताएं पूरी करने के लिए, चीज़ें सुरक्षित तरीके से पहुंचाने के लिए, उन सब के प्रति आभार, कृतज्ञता का ज्ञापन। सभी लोग सुरक्षित रहें, स्वस्थ रहें, सुखी रहें। हम सब आए, हम सब अपने पुण्य उनके साथ साझा करें, ताकि उस पुण्य के बल से वो सुरक्षित रहें। पुण्यस्य इदानी याना कतानि में ते संच भागिनो होन्तु सत्तापमानम अनंत सत्तानंतपमानका। मेरे पुण्यों में जो मैंने आज किए हैं, आज से पहले किए हैं, उन सब में अनंत प्राणी, अप्रमाणित पानी भागीदार हूँ, ताकि उनका भी मंगल हो, कल्याण हो, सुरक्षित रहें, स्वस्थ रहें। और इस विषम परिस्थिति से जो लोग निकल आए हैं, उनके प्रसन्नता में हम भागीदार हों। और इस विषम परिस्थिति के जो हमारे बंद होने के कारण जो वातावरण में सुधार हुआ है, पशु पक्षी मुक्त रूप से विचरण कर पा रहे हैं, उनकी प्रसन्नता में हम भी प्रसन्न होते हैं, मुदिता ब्रह्म विहार का अभ्यास करते हैं। हम सब सजग रहें भविष्य में कि हम ऐसी परिस्थिति बनाए रखें कि वातावरण दूषित न हो, सभी प्राणी सुख से रहें। खास तौर पे पशु पक्षियों के साथ जो हमारा क्रूर व्यवहार रहता है, वो समाप्त हो। और अंत में उपेक्षा ब्रह्म विहार, सभी ब्रह्म विहारों का सरताज, श्रेष्ठ। चाहे कैसी भी परिस्थिति हो जाए, हमारा मन समता में स्थापित रहे, सबका मन समता में स्थापित हो। लोक धर्म तो बदलते ही रहेंगे, कभी प्रसन्नता आएगी, कभी अप्रसन्नता, कभी सक्सेस, कभी फेलियर, कभी प्लेजेंट चीज़ें होंगी, कभी अनप्लेजेंट। हमारा मन कंपायमान ना हो। जैसा आज हमने पढ़ा, पुट्टस्य लोक धम्मे ही चित्तस्य न कंपति। आत्म भाव में स्थित होकर देखें कि जो भी हो रहा है परिस्थितियों के कारण, कंडीशंस के कारण हो रहा है। लोगों को ब्लेम करने में, घृणा बढ़ाने में कोई लाभ न होगा। जो परिस्थितियों के कारण ये कठिनाई आई है उसको पहचानना और उसको दूर करना सजगता और प्रज्ञा का काम है। द्वेष करना, एक दूसरे को दोष देना, वो अकुशल कर्म होगा फिर से, जिसके फिर अकुशल परिणाम हमको ही भुगतने होंगे। जो दुखार्य सत्य प्रकट हुआ है उसको हम ठीक से समझें, दुख के कारणों को ठीक से समझें, अपनी क्रूरता, अपनी नासमझी, अपने आत्म केंद्रित व्यवहार को देखें, उसमें जितनी कमी ला सकें कम करें, ताकि भविष्य में ये परिस्थिति बदले, कंडीशंस बदले और हम इस विषम महामारी से, इस भयंकर परिस्थिति से निजात पाएं। जैसे भगवान की वाणी है कि हमारे कर्मों का ही ये सब फल है। तुम्हारे कर्म सुधरें, क्यों कर्म सुधरेंगे नहीं तो उनका फल तो आएगा ही। यम कर्मं करिष्यन्ति कल्याणं वा पापकं वा तस्य दायादा भविष्यन्ति। ये भगवान की वाणी याद रखेंगे तो प्रेरणा जागेगी कि हम कुशल ही कर्म करें, लोगों को ब्लेम न करके अपने कर्मों को इस विषम परिस्थिति का कारण मानते हुए समता में प्रतिष्ठित हों, हम भी प्रतिष्ठित हों और सारा समाज भारत में, विश्व में समता में प्रतिष्ठित हो, उपेक्षा में प्रतिष्ठित हो।
अहम अवैरोमि अभयापज्योमि अनिभोमि।
मैडम पाली में बोलेंगी, मैं इसका हिंदी ट्रांसलेशन साथ साथ कर देता हूँ। शुरू से
अहम अवैरोमि,
हम निर्वैर हों,
अभयापज्योमि,
व्यापाद से मुक्त हों,
अनिघोमि,
चिंता से मुक्त हों,
सुखी अत्तानं परिहरामि,
अपने आप को ठीक से सुखी रख सकें।
मम माता पितु आचार्या च,
मेरे माता पिता, आचार्य,
नातिमित्ता च,
रिश्तेदार, सह ब्रह्मचारी
चरणो
और हमारे साथी धर्म बंधु, धर्म भगनियाँ,
अवेरा होन्तु,
वे सब भी निर्वैर हों,
अभयापज्या होन्तु,
निर्द्वेष हों,
अनीघा होन्तु,
चिंता मुक्त हों,
आरक्षा देवता
सुखियत्तानं
परिहरन्तु,
अपने आप को आराम से सुख से रख सकें।
आरक्षा देवता,
जो हमारे आरक्षण करने वाले देवता हैं,
भूमट्ठा देवता,
जो धरती पे वास करते हैं या पेड़ों में वास करते हैं या आकाश में वास करते हैं, ये सभी निर्वैर हों,
अभयापज्या होन्तु,
निर्द्वेष हों,
अनीगा होन्तु,
चिंता मुक्त हों, सुखी
यत्तानं परिहरन्तु,
अपने आप को सुखपूर्वक संरक्षित रख सके।
सभ्ये सत्ता,
सभी सत्व,
सभे प्राणा,
सभी प्राणी,
सभे भूता,
सभी भूत,
सभे पुग्गला,
सभी पुरुष प्राणी,
सभी अत्ता भाव पर्यापन्ना
सभी लोग जिनमें अत्ता का भाव है,
सब्बा इतियो
सारी स्त्रियां,
सभी पुरुषा
सभी पुरुष,
सभी अरिया
सभी आर्यजन,
सभी अनरिया
सभी अनार्यजन,
सभी देवा
सभी देव,
सभी मनुष्य
सभी मनुष्य
अवीरा होन्तु
निर्वैर हों,
अभयापज्जा होन्तु
निर्द्वेष हों,
अनिघो होन्तु
चिंता मुक्त हों,
सुखी अत्तानं परिहरन्तु
अपने आप को संरक्षित रख सकें, सुखी रख सकें,
दुःखामुच्यन्तु
सारे दुख मुक्त हों।
यथा लड्ढा संपत्तितो मा विगच्छन्तु
हर एक प्राण की जो संपत्ति है उससे वो दूर न हो।
कम्मस्य का
सभी प्राणी काम कर्मों के
कम्म दायादा
कर्म हमारे कर्मों के उत्तराधिकारी हैं।
कम्म योनि
कर्म ही हमारी योनि बनाता है।
कम्म बंधु
कर्म ही हमारा एकमात्र बंधु है।
कम्म पटिशरणम
केवल कर्म ही हमें शरण दे सकता है।
यम कम्मम करिष्यन्ति
जो भी हम कर्म करेंगे,
कल्याणम वा पापकम वा
कल्याणकारी या पापकारी,
तस्य दायादा भविष्यन्ति
उसके ही उत्तराधिकारी होंगे।
प्रथमाया दिशाया
पूर्व दिशा में,
पश्चिमाया
पश्चिम दिशा में,
उत्तराया
उत्तर
दिशाया
दिशा में,
दक्षिणाया
दक्षिण दिशा
दिशाया
में,
प्रथमायानुदिशाया
नॉर्थ ईस्ट डायरेक्शन में,
पश्चिमायानुदिशाया
साउथ वेस्ट डायरेक्शन में,
उत्तरायानुदिशाया
उत्तर ईस्ट नॉर्थ ईस्ट डायरेक्शन में,
दक्षिणाया दिशाया
साउथ ईस्ट डायरेक्शन में।
सभी सत्ता
इस सभी डायरेक्शंस में जितने भी सत्व हैं, अस्तित्व में हैं,
हेति माया दिशाया
जितने नीचे की दिशा है,
उपरि माया
जो ऊपर की
दिशाया
दिशाएं हैं,
सभी सत्ता
इन सभी दसों दिशाएं में जितने भी सत्व हैं,
सभी बाणा
जितने भी सांस लेने वाले लोग हैं,
सभी भूता
जितने भी भूत हैं,
सभी पुग्गला
जितने भी पुंगल हैं,
सभी अत्ता भाव पर्यापन्ना
सभी लोग जिनमें आत्मभाव है,
सब्बा इतियो
सभी स्त्रियां,
सभी पुरुषा
सभी पुरुष,
सभी अरिया
सभी आर्य लोग,
सभी अनरिया
सभी अनार्य लोग,
सभी देवा
सभी देवता,
सभी मनुष्य
सभी मनुष्य
सभी विनिपातिका
और सभी नीचे के लोकों में रहने वाले प्राणी
अवीरा होन्तु
सभी निर्वैर हों,
अभयापज्जा होन्तु
निर्द्वेष हों,
अनिघो होन्तु
चिंता मुक्त हों,
सुखी अत्तानं परिहरन्तु
अपना पोषण कर सुखपूर्वक अपना पालन पुष्प कर सकें,
दुःखामुच्यन्तु
सबके दुख मुक्त हों,
यथा लड्ढा संपत्तितो मा विगच्छन्तु
जो भी उनकी संपत्ति है उससे वो दूर न हो।
कम्मस्य का
सभी कम कर्मों के ओनर्स हैं,
कम्म दायादा
कर्म के उत्तराधिकारी हैं।
कम्म योनि
अपने कर्म ही हमारी योनि बनाते हैं।
कम्म बंधु
कर्म ही हमारा एकमात्र बंधु है।
कम पटिशरणम
कर्म ही एकदम शरण देने वाला है।
यज्ञं करिष्यामि
जो कर्म हम करते हैं
तस्य दायादा भविष्यन्ति
कुशल या कुशल उसी के उत्तराधिकारी होंगे।
ऊर्ध्वं यावा भवगा च
ऊपर के लोकों में भवाग्र लोकों के अग्र तक लेकर नीचे के लोगों
अधो
में
यावा विच्चितो
अवच्छी नरक तक जितने भी प्राणी धरती पर चलते वाले हैं
समन्ता चक्रवालेषु
सारे चक्र वालों में
ये सत्ता उदकी चरा
जितने भी प्राणी
पृथ्वी चरा
धरती में चलने वाले हैं
अभयापज्जा नीराच
ये सब व्यापाद से मुक्त हो, निर्वैर से मुक्त हो।
अभयापज्जा निविराच
विद्वेषाच है अनुपद्रव और विद्वेष से मुक्त हो और उपद्रव से मुक्त हो।
ऊर्ध्वं यावा भवगा च
ऊपर के लोग भवाग्र तक, नीचे के लोग अविच्ची नरक तक,
अधो यावा विच्चितो
जितने भी वहाँ इन लोकों में प्राणी पानी में चलते हैं ये सब
समन्ता चक्रवालेषु
जितने भी इन सब लोकों में जितने भी पानी पे चलते हैं वे सब निर्द्वेष हो, निर्वैर हो, चिंता मुक्त हो, उपद्रव मुक्त हो। इसी प्रकार ऊपर के लोकों में भवाग्र तक, नीचे के लोकों में अविच्छि नरक तक जितने भी प्राणी हैं जो आकाश में विचरण करते हैं वे सब द्वेष से मुक्त हों, व्यार से मुक्त हों, व्यापाद से मुक्त हों, उपद्रव से मुक्त हों।
अभयापज्जानि विराचा दुखाच अनुपद्धवा।
हो गया सब, स्टॉप।
सभ्य सत्ता,
अब सब सब
सभ्य सत्ता सुखी होन्तु, सभ्ये होन्तु चखेमिनो, सभ्ये भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा किञ्चित् पापमागमः, मा किञ्चित् शोकमागमः, मा किञ्चित् दुःखमागमः। भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं, रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता, सर्वबुद्धानुभावेन, सदा सोति भवन्तु ते। भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं, रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता, सर्वधर्मानुभावेन, सदा सोति भवन्तु ते। भवतु सर्वमङ्गलं, रक्षन्तु सर्वदेवता, सर्वसङ्घानुभावेन, सदा सोति भवन्तु ते। अरहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो भगवा, बुद्धं भगवन्तम् अभिवादिम्। स्वागतो भगवता धम्मो, धम्मं नमस्सामि। सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संघो, संघं नमामि।